All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May peace and power elevation be to all of you beautiful people out there. This is your one and only Tiffany French coming through live in effect right here on StreamYard. And I'm streaming from both channels, both YouTube and Facebook. So if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so. If you are watching from Facebook, go ahead and share the video on Facebook. All right. So today's topic, right? Today's Black History, we're going to talk about Queen Mother Moore. So who was Queen Mother Moore? So many people may have heard of her name, many have not. So yesterday, July 27th, was her born day, right? So she was born on July the 27th. And yeah, that was her born day. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to discuss it today. We're going to discuss her history and who she was and what type of role did she play within the African diaspora and the African American community. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, this lady right here is Queen Mother Moore. That's Queen Mother Moore. And all right, so right here, I'm on a website called books.openedition.org, books.openedition.org. And as you can see, the title says 34, I don't play those borders, no mind at all. Audley E. Moore, Queen Mother Moore, grassroots global traveler and activist. All right, so it's an essay, but it's an account on her life. This is her again right here. This is Queen Mother Moore. All right. So let's go ahead and start off right here. And it says that she was born on July 27, 1898 in New Albany, Louisiana. Audley Elos Moore experienced the personal pain and humiliation of life in Jim Crow, Louisiana at an early age. Exacerbated by knowing that one of her grandfathers had been lynched and a great-grandmother raped. The death of her father when she was in elementary school was a blow that might have fostered Moore's resolve to create a strong, independent life. Her mother had died when Audley was born, so she was orphaned early. Alone, Audley assumed financial and parental responsibility for her two younger sisters, requiring her to end her education at the fourth grade level. It was wartime, so she relocated with her sibling to New Orleans in search of employment. She worked as a hairdresser after graduating from the Poirot hairdressing program and as a domestic service worker. Like so many people across the U.S. during the First World War, and especially during the interwar 1920s and 1930s, she was drawn to the Black nationalist movement, African diaspora liberation, and the self-determinist ideology of Black Jamaican Marcus Garvey under the aegis of his Universal Negro Improvement Association established in 1914. While in New Orleans, Moore became active in the local UNIA chapter, organized in 1920 by a small group of local women. Its membership was mostly made up of working class women and men. It grew exponentially with reportedly more than 2,000 members 6 months after its founding. It responds to Louisiana's long and famous history of racial segregation and trauma. A record number of chapters blossomed in the state. Moore and her sisters relocated to California and Illinois before eventually settling in Harlem, New York in the 1920s. The epicenter of the Garvey movement and the new home of Black U.S., African, Caribbean, diasporian population. So far what we know about Queen Mother Moore is that she was born during the time of the Jim Crow era. Not only that, but she has witnessed the story about her grandfather being lynched, her great-grandmother was raped, and her father was dead. Then her mother had died prior to that, so she grew up as an orphan, had to care for her younger siblings. And again, that typically is the case where you have an older sibling caring for the younger siblings when the parents is no longer around, or if the parents are not around. So that was the case with her. And then she migrated to New York in the 20s. All right. And she got exposed to the idea about the Pan-Africanist movement and the Garveyite movement, right? The UNIA. So that's where she found her attachment. And from there, that's where she connected with the UNIA. All right, so let's go ahead and let's continue. All right, so right here it says, in an interview published in 1973, issue of the Black Scholar, Moore reflect on Garvey's visual, spiritual, and political lure to her and the other Louisiana Blacks, proclaiming he brought something very beautiful to us. Africa for the Africans. That was our inheritance. Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. That we were somebody, that we had a right to restore our proper selves. Not peripherally a socio-economic dimension to her recollection of her struggles and early motivation to become a political activist. Moore announced before an admiring audience at the 1980 Wayne State University Symposium, tribute to the revolutionary legacy of African women. It was not abject poverty that drove her to the struggle, but a burning desire for freedom on the U.S. and the world stages. This burning desire would continue lifelong as a driving force for Moore's involvement with new Black nationalist / Pan-Africanist arenas and movement. So again, instead, when she learned about her situation, right, she challenged her situation into getting involved in social movements so she can help better improve the African-American condition and be able to help liberate the people, especially young African-American women. So, all right, so right here it says the UNIA experienced a microcosm of what women encounter as they joined, led, and worked within national organizations that aim to achieve racial and social justice in the U.S. and internationally. Historian Eula Taylor and others have documented that while in separate entities within the male-led UNIA organization, women conspicuously served in key leadership positions, albeit not with the same level of influence and power. In this Black nationalist-based global organization, there were female presidents and vice presidents of the women division and heads of the Black Cross nurses in the U.S. and the Caribbean. Undeniably, migration and movement were key elements of the UNIA and Black Liberation Organization, including the Universal African Black Cross Nurses Auxiliary, founded in 1921 by UNIA Vice President Henrietta Vinton Davis. This Black Diaspora women's grassroots organization provided healthcare services and nursing training for Blacks in Harlem and other U.S. cities, as well as to members in Bezali, Nova Scotia, Panama, and Trinidad and Tobago, while compartmentalized and not necessarily progressive, Black women's global activism, community engagement, leadership within the UNIA was not lost on Moore or other Black U.S. UNIA women activists. She asserted that the UNIA always had a lady president along with our president general, and everybody looked up to the women that Garvey celebrated with deepest respect. So now, one of the programs that was started within the UNIA was the Black Cross Nurses, right? Which happened to be found by a sister named Henrietta Vinton Davis. So her and Queen Moore have played the pivotal role in providing healthcare and other services to those within the African diaspora community. So let's okay, so let's go ahead and skip down a few paragraphs. And it says here, in her diaspora engagements, first as a Garveyite, then in the 1930s and 1940 as a member of the International Labor Defense and the Communist Party, USA, and much later in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s as she traveled across the U.S. and to travel into various African nations as an independent woman. Moore denounced anti-Black racism and colonial domination in the 1930s. Moore's communist affiliation overlapped with her grassroots campaign for domestic workers and renters' rights in New York City and for African liberation, most notably in opposition to Mussolini's invasion of Ethiopia. Her outlook was based upon her public declaration that the communists were the only ones interested in my revolutionary rights. Most of the activists Moore traveled with made short-term visits abroad to attend and participate in Pan-African conferences and congresses. They appear not to have been as profoundly influenced by their subsequent political and or cultural engagements with African liberation and Pan-African causes in the U.S. and abroad as Moore, who maintained a strong ideological and activist principles she had begun to develop as a young woman in Louisiana. All right, and so let's go down to here. Okay, and it says working class and poor Black women who may not have always possessed the financial means to travel globally, nor the social connection with prominent Pan-Africanist male leaders that would enable them to receive an invitation to speak at pre-1950s Pan-African Convention. Nonetheless, fully embraced and understood their diaspora activism on a global scale. More examples demonstrate their awareness. When she left the Communist Party, Moore moved back to New Orleans, and in 1950, she joined the Sons and Daughters of Ethiopia. 7 years later, she co-founded and served as president, occasionally noted in the organization literature as committee chair of the Universal Association of Ethiopian Women, a small local organization that fought against the unjust execution of Black men who have been falsely charged with raping white women. It was also devoted to welfare rights and community assistance. The the peripatetic Moore traveled across the U.S., maintaining a global Pan-Africanist mindset all the while. When she returned to Harlem in 1964, she became the president of the World Federation of African People. Its global was to establish a black nation in the U.S. that, according to Moore, would be the only place in the U.S. where Americans of African descent would be really free. Surprisingly, the place Moore selected as the site of the Federation separate and safe haven for black folks was none other than the Catskill Mountains in the southeastern region of the state of New York. She purchased land there to buy an all black town that she envisioned would attract black folks from around the globe. So, Queen Mother Moore traveled to the Catskill Mountains, right, which is the southeastern part of New York. And she had purchased some land so she can build an all-black town that will bring the attraction to black people to come into this area. And then what did it say? Right here. It says throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Moore attended and spoke at numerous Black Power and African liberation meetings. In March of 1968, she helped to form the All-Black Republic of New Africa and became more fully engaged in the reparation movement. Having brought the reparation issue before the United Nations and other international human rights organizations in 1957. And again in 1959, Moore and others sought to draw a broad-based attention to African and African-descended peoples' demand for economic compensation and public reprimands for involuntary migration, enslavement, and physical and sexual violation of Black bodies. The reparation movement, as historian Martha Bundy rightfully proclaims, helped to revive Black global anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist project and radically intervene in the discourse of globalization. Rather than a revival, at least for Moore, however, it was part of parcel of a decades-long and continuous global African liberation engagement and philosophy. So far, she helped to form an all-Black Republic of New Africa, right? And with that being the case, she happened to be one of the people that fought for reparation. So again, fighting for reparation is nothing new. People have been fighting for it for the longest. Reparation been an ongoing fight for a long time. It has been an ongoing fight in this country. And it still is an ongoing fight. All right, so. And then over here, I'm going to skip a few paragraphs after this. Over her long life as a Black nationalist activist and thinker, Moore's solution to centuries of Black enslavement and oppression ranged from the formation of independent all-Black country in the U.S. to demands for reparation in the amount of $200 billion for centuries of economic, political, and human oppression. In 1963, she helped to establish the Reparation Committee of the descendant of the U.S. slaves, calling for repayment of earned wages and benefits from the current American government to subsequent generations of living Black people whose ancestor had been enslaved in the U.S., recognizing the desire on the part of some African Americans to move to Africa. The Reparation Committee also demanded compensation for them as well as for those who wished to remain in the U.S. She advocated for prisoners' rights and racial justice as part of her Ethiopian Women's Association platform in the 1950s. The organization continued in the 1960s and 1970s. Moore's dedicated attention to the criminal justice system was not lost on Black prisons population, and others who admire her struggle all around the Black world. In 1973, she was invited to give a speech at the New York's Green Haven Correctional Facility. All right. Then let's go down here. Check this out right here. Throughout her political activist life, Moore viewed segregation and anti-Black racism in the U.S. and global colonial denomination in Africa and the Caribbean as intertwining sites of oppression, indeed as two sides of the coin. In keeping her Pan-African segments, a number of African Americans were influenced by her and decided to relocate to the continent of Africa, but not more. She moved to Philadelphia, where she enlarged her reparation movement by calling not for a back to Africa movement, but rather for the United States to divide into separate Euro-American and African descended states, and for the United States government to pay reparation to African descended government in the amount of $500 trillion. So now, Queen Mother Moore at that time went to declare from $500 billion in reparation to $500 trillion in reparation. She said no longer in Catskills, Moore and her cohort of other Black nationalists worked to establish the new Republic of Africa, a separate nation of Black citizens that would be comprised of 5 southern states: Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, right? South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. Well, actually, there'll be 6 states. The newly formed nation would be supported by reparation money as a nod to her global vision and travels. Moore was appointed the new Republicans Minister of Foreign Relations and Culture. At its 1969 meeting in Detroit, she became the organization vice president. Now, she done had many organizations under her belt. She really did. All right. Okay, so okay, so right here, let's see what it says. Right here, it says, while never a major figure in feminist organizations as such, with the exception of short-lived sojourners for truth and justice, Moore lived her life as a self-determined feminist and activist with largely Black male patriarchal spaces and movement. In them, she inextricably linked Black feminism and Black liberation struggles, clearly serving as an example that women should no longer be confined to supporters roles or to that of the occasional speakers in public or private political and leadership activities. Moore averred that Black women, whether born in U.S. or on the African continent or elsewhere in the diaspora, were essential to the development of a Pan-African alliance and to women's global unity within intellectual political context. Moore was greatly admired both as a emblematic of Black women's grassroots activism and in her constant movement and engagement as lifelong activists. champion for global citizen at home and abroad in Africa or its diaspora. She often accepted invitations to be among the featured speakers at African and African American political gatherings. Some of these were women's gatherings, but they were predominantly male, including the 1995 Million Man March. All right. So let's see if we can find out some more information about her as far as all right, this is Queen Mother Moore. She's being honored and being paid tribute to at some type of war service. This is her again. All right. So let's go down the hill. All right, so let's find out some more information about Queen Mother Moore. Um, all right. All right, so here it is. Okay, so it says, taking first of many trips to Africa in 1972, she was given a chieftaincy. And what is that? A tribal chief or chieftain or chieftain is the leader of a tribal society or chiefdom. Okay, she was given a chieftaincy title Queen Mother by members of the Ashanti people in Ghana, an honorific which became her informal name in the United States. So when she went to Ghana, they gave her the name Queen Mother Moore, right? And this was by the Asante tribe. Okay. In 1990, Blakely took her to meet Nelson Mandela after his release from prison in South Africa at the residence of President Kenneth Kaunda in Lusaka, Zambia in 1996. Blakely assisted Moore in installling Winnie Mandela in the presence of Asar Asset Society International at the Lowe's Victoria Theater, New York City, 5 in 125th Street, Harlem. First African American chairman of the DNC, Democratic National Committee, and U.S. Secretary of Commerce Ron Brown, U.S. politician, U.S. Congressman Charles Rangel, New York City Mayor David Dinkins, and U.S. presidential candidate Jesse Jackson honor, support, acknowledge, respect, and ensure the well-being of Moore as a royal elder in the Harlem community. Sonia Sanchez, voice of the liberation struggle of a people, was a goddaughter adored by Moore. And it says Queen Mother Moore died in a Brooklyn nursery home from natural causes at the age of 98. She is survived by her son, Thomas O. Warner of Philadelphia, 5 grandchildren, and a great-grandson. So, after all this time, now I'm a little concerned. After all this time, this lady done fought and had all this did all this revolutionary activism, right? She ended up dying in the nursery home. Why did she have to end up going to a nursery home? That's what I'm wondering. I'm just curious. After all this work she have done, she should have been at home with her family, right? In my opinion, she should have been home with her family at her final resting place, not at a nursery home. But she lived a long life. And here's some references right here. Is one from New York Times, Queen Mother Moore, 98, Harlem rights leader dies. Here's some right here. And here's some more information over here if you want to look it up. It says Elderly Queen Mother Moore, American National Biography. Okay. Here it is, the external link. Queen Mother Moore, Black Nationalist Leaders. And then one by Black History Pages. Queen Mother Moore talk about seeing Marcus Garvey and being in the UNIA in this radio documentary. And here we go. And then the website I showed you guys is called Book Open Edition, booksopenedition.org, right? And this one says Women in Migration Responses to Art and History. And then the article said, I don't pay those borders no mind at all. Right here. Grassroots global traveler and activist Sharon Hartley. All right, so you can go ahead and check it out if you want to read up more information. And then plus there's references at the bottom, bibliography at the bottom, right here. And there's the notes. Right over here. So you guys can look it up for yourselves. All right. Okay, so I want to play a little clip from Queen Mother Moore, right? She's speaking herself. So this clip was in 1973. All right, here it goes.
In New Orleans, when the police told Marcus Garvey he couldn't speak to us and prevented him from coming to in New Orleans, when the police told Marcus Garvey he couldn't speak to us and prevented him from coming to speak to us one night. We, of course, went in delegations and everything and raised such a ruckus that they had to let Marcus Garvey speak to us the next night. But when we went, I want you to hear me. When we went determined that nothing would stop Marcus Garvey from speaking to us. Now, how do you do that? How do you go determined to keep the powers that be from preventing your leader from speaking to you? How do you do that? Well, I'll tell you how we did it. Every one of us, including myself, went out. We went out. I had 2 guns on me. I had one in my bosom and one in my pocketbook. Low 38 special. Pearl handle. I never forget my little pearl handle gun. You think y'all bad, huh? Some of you think you're bad. We went, brothers and sisters, do you think we went there with a round of ammunition? No. We went with handbags of ammunition. Everybody had handbags of ammunition.
We used to call them satchels. Satchels.
Okay, hold on. Hold on, you guys. I don't know what that is in the background.
Ammunition. Now, when the police came and they found her home.
Okay. So give me a second. Let me see if I can find a video where she actually speaking. Because I don't know, there was a video playing in the background. Let's see.
In New Orleans, we went out. I had two
Peace,
guns
peace,
on
peace,
me.
peace. How you doing?
I had one in my bosom and one in my pocketbook. Low 30-inch special. Pearl handle. Pearl handle. I'll never forget my little pearl handle gun. You think y'all bad, huh? Some of you think you're bad. We went, brothers and sisters, do you think we went there with a round of ammunition? No. We went with handbags of ammunition. Everybody had handbags.
Okay. So that was Queen Mother Moore speaking. Right. And she was basically talking about her life in the movement of the UNIA and how when Marcus Garvey came to New Orleans, he wasn't able to speak to the people in New Orleans, and they demanded that he get an opportunity to speak to the people. So that's the story about Queen Mother Moore and her life. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys. For those of you that's watching, thank you for watching the video. If you are watching from Facebook, you can go ahead and share this video. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Please make sure you subscribe to YouTube and share and hit the notification bell so when I come on. So with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. May peace and power elevation be to all of you. And you guys, please be safe out there. And also, if you want to contribute to what I'm doing, right? If you like the fact that I'm pulling up contents and I'm sharing information with you guys, and you want to be a big supporter of what I'm doing, go ahead and hit the Cash App $Tip World. Just go ahead, click on that Cash App $Tip World. If you guys enjoy what I'm doing. So other than that, may peace and power elevation be to you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. Until next time, take it easy. All right then. Peace.